Well, hello everyone, and welcome to day number 2 of the EMS Leadership Summit. My name is Robbie McHugh.
And I'm Lisa Geritzi. Welcome. We are so delighted to be here and to have our daily debrief for day 2. We have an extraordinary group of speakers in the green room that we'll be bringing in soon to answer your questions. So if you are watching us on any of the socials, if you could go to the comments and tell us where you're joining from, and be sure to use that space to ask any questions that you might have.
And we wanted to welcome everyone again to the EMS Leadership Summit. We've been excited to feature sessions on day number 2 and wanted to give people a quick overview and an orientation to where they can access today's sessions. If you're not familiar, emsleadershipsummit.com, you could still sign up for a free pass. And if you head on over after you register to the exhibit hall, so emsleadershipsummit.com/exhibit, you can navigate through our many great sponsors and check out what they have to offer. Over in booth number 1 is everything to do with the conference lineup and sessions. So if you want to register and get a copy of our playbook, it's a complete PDF here of all of the speaker sessions in the lineup for the whole week, as well as some additional bonus articles. You can access free sessions by clicking on the button that says free sessions. Some of you may have upgraded to an all access pass, which gives you lifetime access to this week's sessions, as well as some NEMSMA approved continuing education credits. Everybody loves those CEUs. And that's available through a special portal after you've upgraded or registered. But each day of the summit, we're going to premiere 5 or 6 sessions, and you can access those for about 24 hours. So day number 2 is here, and our sessions are and speakers are live until 8 o'clock Eastern tomorrow morning. And we've got the whole lineup here for the week.
Yes, and in these booths, every single booth has something to offer. So these sponsors really make the summit possible. The reason we're able to provide a free ticket to so many folks is in large part to our sponsors. So, and very exciting, we have 2 lunch and learns this week, one on Thursday and one on Friday. And if you hover like Robbie's doing right now, you can see the 2 links, and if you click on them, you'll learn more about them. But what happens is if you register and show up, you must show up to the event, you will be emailed a voucher from Grubhub for you to use. You have 2 weeks to use it. So that's pretty cool. Thanks to our Lunch and Learn sponsors for providing those Grubhub gift certificates. Who doesn't love food? I know in healthcare, it's a very big draw. So we have been getting a lot of registrations into those Lunch and Learn. So that's really cool.
And a shout out to one of our partners and our sponsors, EMS One and Lexipol. They have featured a lot of the industry trend reports in the What Paramedics Want survey. And there are links here to prior years' surveys, as well as this most recent survey. The 2026 report should be due out, I believe, in July, June or July. But all of the sessions this year and the lineup we've crafted and worked with our speakers about is addressing some of the top concerns found in the What Paramedics Want survey, where we're finding burnout is ranked number 1 as the number 1 issue on the minds of the paramedics and frontline leaders and organizations, as well as other more common ones that we're used to seeing, leadership, which we've been here talking about for now. This is our 7th year providing these resources, but funding reimbursement, mental health, safety, career development. So, but burnout being the number 1 issue, and that's what most of our speakers are all speaking to, is how to address these at both the individual level with strategies and the systems level, organization-wide, community-wide, nationwide, global issues, because as many of our speakers from other countries have pointed out, some of these issues are a copy paste to what they're dealing with in their countries. So very universal issues when it comes to the systems factors that are influencing provider burnout.
Yeah, it definitely reaches beyond the borders for sure. So
as well as featuring EMS One wanted us to feature the EMS One Stop podcast
yeah.
with Rob Lawrence, who happens to be in the green room, and we're going to be bringing out very shortly as part of our speaker panel. So please feel free to navigate through the virtual exhibitor hall and see what our sponsors have to offer.
Absolutely. And this year's theme, in addition to being, driven by what paramedics want, the survey results, it's also, we have the overarching theme is the power of leadership to build a sustainable future. So, we are asking our presenters to really talk about that, and not only in their presentations, but on our daily debriefs, which for me are the most fun part of our summit. And I think really has us stand out as a virtual summit to have these live opportunities. They're like, what's the word, like think tanks, right? We bring the speakers together and we talk about various topics or questions. So if you have a question, please be sure to put that in the comments, and we will answer them if we can.
All right, Lisa. So with that, I think we should bring in our some of our speakers that are in the green room. We have Mark Tenia, the Richmond Ambulance Authority. Mark, welcome back.
Glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
Hi, Mark.
And we've also got the Rob Lawrence joining us today. Rob, thanks for being here.
Robbie, Lisa, good afternoon. Hope you're all well.
Doing really great, and so happy to have you both as part of the summit. Your presentation launched today, and what a terrific panel, speaking about the really the tools you can have to tell the story of your organization.
Yeah, I think, Lisa, what stood out to me is Mark sharing some statistics with us around building trust. I think this is a question we often get, both internal trust in our organization as leaders and trying to build the trust of employees, as well as that external community trust that we're building. And Mark, you had mentioned one of the statistics is that brands with a strong PR strategy are 2.5 times more likely to maintain a positive reputation during a crisis, and that positive press actually can improve the public trust by up to 30%, according to Gartner. So I know we had a chance to talk about strategies internally and externally, but would love to hear your thoughts on that conversation we had about, how do we build trust in our community?
Yeah, one of the things that we do at the Richmond Ambulance Authority, anytime we train our new employees, one of the first things that we talk about is public relations. And we talk about public relations in terms of the relationship that your organization has with the public. And I always tell our employees to think of public relations as a relationship. And we all have had ups and downs in the relationships we've had, whether it's friendships, whether it's marriage, whether it's with our family. And you think about the things that impact those relationships and what you look for when it comes to building trust. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you say you want to hear from the other people, mean it. And those things, when you don't follow through, that impacts trust. And the same thing can be applied to public relations and your organizations. You need to treat it just like every other relationship in life. And when you break that trust, when you're not truthful, when you're not transparent, when you're holding something back, that's going to impact that trust that the public has with you. It may impact the trust that your employees have with their leaders. And you have opportunities to build strong trust, or you have opportunities to break trust. And you need to grasp on those opportunities and make sure that you follow through, because that builds the trust with the organization and the public. And when you do have a crisis, because you've had that long relationship, it goes so far to just have that trust that you've built. And like Rob says all the time, it takes about 10 good stories to make up for one bad story. And so trust is such a big, important part of that. And if you don't have that trust when you're in the middle of a crisis and you want people to trust what you're saying, it becomes that much harder and that much harder of a hill to climb when you don't have that trust.
And also, I think reputation is another word that goes synonymously with trust. Of course, with the public trust that you build up, you generate a great reputation. You become externally, you become the go-to folk when people want an answer. But of course, trust and reputation take a long, long time to gain those two things, and it takes sometimes minutes or seconds to lose it. And so it's a constant effort to maintain trust in order to build reputation, in order to be the go-to folk and the ones in your community that people want to hear from. And so that is the job of the chief. It's the job of the public relations officer, and ultimately it's the job of everybody, as Mark has noted, because we drive around in big billboards. Everyone knows exactly who we are because they see us go past with or without lights and sirens, but they certainly see us go past, and therefore we're an ever-present marker in the community, and that marker always has to be positive.
Yeah, and it sounds like as leaders, we're always kind of hopefully adding to that trust bank, and occasionally we have to rely on those relationships when we need to whether it's going for an ask with our elected officials, depending on the hat that you're wearing, or it's educating the public on a new program that you're implementing. They're all opportunities to either build trust and hopefully not have to take trust out.
Yeah, and from an external communication perspective, and this is one of Mark's specialist subjects, right? And he talks about this, that sometimes you just need to have, a pass for the day with something that's happening to your organization, and actually providing you have that level of trust and transparency, then your local, particularly journalists, etc., are likely to actually cut you that break. And that's Mark's story, but it's a great example.
Well, and I also love how you sort of demystify the whole thing. I think, before I started listening to you and these panels, it really, for me, PR was like this kind of mystical thing that happened, and it was all about spin, and it was all about, damage control. But it didn't seem like the way you just described it, Mark, and the way you just talked about it, Rob, where it's just this relationship you have, and it's not mystical. It's a relationship, and the fact that it's so in the fabric, Mark, that you talk about all new employees get to hear what it's about. To me, that's a system of creating a what's the word I want, like a gateway for the relationship to happen, right? It's like you I don't know, there's something about that just feels so normalized.
Yeah, and the reason I have that conversation with every employee is to let them know that while I may be the public relations manager, everybody that works at our agency is in public relations, and especially those that are interacting with the public on a regular basis, and they can have way more of an impact on the reputation and the public relationship with the organization has with the public than I can ever have. I always tell them my job is to help highlight and promote the great stuff that you're doing, but you have to be doing the great stuff in order for that to happen. And building trust does not mean necessarily always having rose-colored glasses with the things that you're going on in your organization. Building trust also means owning the things that aren't great and coming forward and saying, hey, we screwed up here, and this is why it happened. This is what we're doing to make sure it doesn't happen again, and this is what we're going to be doing in the future. That builds trust, and that helps the public and organizations realize that they don't have to steer clear from those tough times, and that does help build trust when you own those things and you show that we messed up here, but we're going to do all the things we can do to try and improve it and make sure it doesn't happen again.
But also in terms of reputation, all of our crews are now TV, movie stars, right? Because as soon as they step out of the vehicle or leave the station, they're on a camera somewhere. We're now in that area. Doug Wolfberg calls it performative EMS, right? You are going to be on camera no matter what. The days of please stop filming, it's HIPAA or whatever you want to say to a member of the citizen is gone. You are there. You are going to be reported on, hopefully favorably. We've certainly since, and as you both know, my articles at EMS One have focused on sometimes when things haven't gone so well, and reporting on the various cases that have gone on, whether it's body-worn cameras or whether it's citizens that are capturing our crews in action. We want to make sure that action is positive, not negative. And of course, that also reflects on the organization, and it can have a morale effect on the organization. If you think some of these places where things haven't gone according to plan, let's just be polite and call it that I'm sure that the reputation suffers, the morale suffers, and things things deteriorate. And of course, we seek to avoid that through good education and, of course, through demonstration of excellent and world-class EMS and practice.
Yeah, this performative effort that people need to be more aware of, that yes, whether it's a police body-worn camera or it is somebody's cell phone, a lot of the unsaid, that's happening in people's minds and the providers' minds is not getting caught on camera either. So they have to be even more aware of how they're interacting and assessing patients.
That's exactly the Elijah McClain case is a classic. I interviewed the lawyers from the Elijah McClain case, and of course their point was, we're medics. We are being stoic. We are being silent. We are being the strong, silent type. We're thinking about at 1,000,000 miles an hour. But what the citizen sees, or what the patient's family sees, is somebody that's not being communicative. Although we know we are thinking about what to do next, we have to flip that now. Actually, we have to almost give the commentary of what we're doing in order to satisfy the listener, that is the family or the bystander, and potentially also satisfy when you are on the news, or when you are in court, dare I say. And so that's an interesting sort of flip now that certainly I like to stop, ponder and think, but now I have to actually tell you what I'm pondering and thinking, otherwise you'll think I'm not thinking at all. It's interesting.
Right.
But so with that, I'd like to bring in Alexia. Alexia is in the green room, and we now have our trio back together again. Alexia, welcome.
Thank you.
Panel of public relations experts, Alexia from Remsa Health. We're just having this conversation about building public trust, leveraging communication strategies with the public. And then I think there's also this flip side that we had a chance to talk about on the panel, was leveraging and building internal trust, highlighting success stories. And how do we do that inside an organization, especially in light of next week, National EMS Week? I think it's a prime opportunity that comes up every year where we can leverage those strategies and really make sure we're communicating with our own people, so they feel the good work that they're doing, that they hear about it.
Absolutely. That is how I introduce myself during our new employee orientation, is that I'm the director of public relations, but I get to tell the stories about the incredible work that our EMTs, nurses, dispatchers, and paramedics do every single day, and that they're the ones out there making it easy to do my job, basically. And I think I just heard Mark mention that they are our biggest ambassadors for our organization and for the EMS profession. And yes, EMS Week is a perfect opportunity to highlight that. And there's many ways you can do that, sharing those stories with the media about those incredible calls, doing some social media highlight posts, that call out the work that our staff do. A lot of times behind the scene works, our logistics technicians, our fleet mechanics, things like that. And celebrating them, taking time to walk through the garage at the beginning of the shift and say, thanks, I heard about that really tough call that you had yesterday, and I appreciate that you showed such incredible compassion, and really looking for opportunities to highlight that incredible work.
Absolutely. The stories that don't get shared, I think, are such a disservice, not only to the folks in the who are doing the work, but to everyone, because a lot of times we see the ambulance, but if you've never been privy to what all goes into that, just the ambulance ride and the all of what happens at the scene and everything, people don't know, people don't understand. I mean, I remember when we premiered the Honorable but Broken documentary, and so many people that are in my life watched it, and they were like, we had no idea. I mean, we knew you were doing this work, but we had no idea. And that really highlighted for me how unknown the stories are.
And that there's just incredible stories, I think, on every shift. I'm actually working on our EMS Week awards event right now, and going through and looking at the submissions and the nominations. And, there's stories of paramedics who, responded on someone and they think that she was ill because she didn't have access to her medication. So they took her to the hospital, and then they went to the pharmacy and filled her prescriptions with their own money, and delivered it to the hospital, where she, shed tears of joy. I mean, that is a level of compassion that is just remarkable and really deserves to be recognized and celebrated. So when you think about whether or not you have capacity in your agency to tackle public relations, just think about not sharing that story, and then I think it becomes pretty easy to find the time to put that effort in.
And often your panel talks about the power of associations, whether it's the state or national associations. All three of you are involved or wear a hat in a national association, whether it's the American Ambulance Association, whether it's the Aim High organization. You can leverage some of those relationships and memberships to help you. Rob, you often talk about the EMS Intel project. And
first of all, yes, we're all involved with it, whether it's Aim High, whether it's AAA. Of course, Alexia is the communications chair for the American Ambulance Association, which is a vital role in telling all of our stories. And so you can very easily use your state or a national association to assist you in telling the stories, or indeed to get some top tips, like join the AAA Communications Committee, joining the Aim High Communications Committee, because actually R&D, ripping off and duplicating other ideas, is a good idea. You mentioned emsintel.org. We are actually using that to collect and collate stories about our industry. And of course, this is where being a communicator comes in handy. For example, where if you're in a very rural area or in a local area, and your local board of supervisors says, what's wrong with response times, or what's wrong with this part of the service or that part of the service, and actually, because it's a generic theme, you can go to EMS Intel and you can say, actually, no, it's not just us. There is a region or a national issue that's going on that you need to be aware of, and because potentially you are kind of blinded by being in a locality, we can actually help you expand the story to a national level or a local level or a regional level, and actually justify what you're up to, which has been very, very useful to brief politicians. It's been very, very useful to brief members of the media, and we continue to collect and collate stories. Soapbox time, Robbie, because you mentioned Intel. Of course, just look at the amount of ambulances that are still being stolen every 2 weeks. That's something that we need to fix. That's a story in itself. Please lock them up.
Every opportunity.
Or immobilize them, at least.
Please. But emsintel.org, definitely a great database and resource for anybody to leverage those stories for sure. So in our last few minutes together with this panel, we'd love to hear your thoughts on provider burnout in general. I know we had a chance to dive into it a bit deeper. What are you seeing? What are some of your final thoughts or advice for leaders and how they can, from an individual level or a systems level, try to address the issue that's top of mind?
I think it's fascinating, actually. I was talking to a few people now who have commented on the fact that it's not the extreme traumas that are necessarily burning people out. It's actually the repetitive nature of those folk that perhaps aren't in the acute category of 911 caller. And it's that sort of repetitive nature of keep going around that's causing stress and burnout. And of course, they're not blaming those people. It's because there's no other avenues and pathways for those patients to be sent to, and it comes back to us, and we become the great health and social care safety nets, when there should be other outlets and avenues for those patients, and therefore it's causing a lot of stress and repetitive stress injury, a different sort of RSI, if you like. And I hadn't considered that until the last wee while, when you think about it's the extreme traumas that cause this, but actually it's just that sort of the dripping of the constant stuff that it just builds up, and it's an interesting angle to think about it.
Yeah, death by 1,000 cuts, some people say.
Exactly.
For other presentations, and you look at other areas and arenas of public safety and public health, and you look at even police departments. Police departments have a career ladder. They've developed an investigation unit. They developed a community resource unit. There's no reason why I think our organizations can't try to focus that, whether it's community paramedicine, examples like Alexia just talked about. Like, most of our repetitive patients and repeat patients are driven by medication noncompliance, and something as simple to us as let's make sure they get their medications, whether it's in a blister pack or they get a delivery set up, could resolve most of our low acuity, high volume callers. So, Rob,
I think underscoring what Rob was just saying too, and taking the opportunity to ask inside your organization, because we know it's not just one size of burnout fits all, right? I work with a colleague who now says, for all of the years that he was on a rig, that it was getting off late that is what would kind of send him into a frustrated state, and that and that would have just never occurred to someone else, right? And so I think taking the time to do some internal research, some focus groups, an employee survey, and ask about what it is that they think is causing some of that burnout, and then working operationally to make changes within your system that actually address that, and asking them. Sometimes the people experiencing the difficulties are the ones that have the solution, and they just don't have the ear of the decision makers to share that. So I'd say to leaders to be quiet a little bit and listen.
Beautiful advice. I mean, that's the world of process improvement teaches that the people closest to the issue are going to have the solutions. And if we can just create a structure and a system that listens to them, they're going to give us the answers we need to make change.
Yeah.
So I love that idea, Alexia.
I would say that and Alexia pointed this out, it's not just about the listening, it's also about the implementation.
Mhm.
And you can have surveys, you can have meetings, you can have town halls with your employees. You can write all the things down that they say, but unless you actually implement the changes that they're talking about, then you're not doing any service to the employees or your organization. And that goes back to building trust. If you say you're going to do something, then do it. If you want to hear from your employees, then mean that. And we have implemented some changes because of the feedback that we've gotten from some of our employees. We have quick response vehicles that we call chase cars that are staffed by were initially staffed by veteran paramedics. And I've talked to some of those people that work in the quick response vehicles, and a lot of them did have burnout, and they had their passion rekindled by being in these quick response vehicles and just responding to high acuity calls. And not just that, the quick response vehicles are supplemented by an BLS unit, and so they're not only responding to these high acuity calls, they're also teaching these EMTs that are new how to do the job, and showing them how it should be done and what it means to be a paramedic, hopefully inspiring these EMTs to want to do the same thing. And the EMTs love it because they get to go on calls that they normally wouldn't go on by themselves. And so it's helped the EMTs with their burnout. It's helped our paramedics with their burnout. And we implemented that because of what we were hearing from our staff.
Oh, that's great.
Great advice. Great advice, folks. Again, thanks to our PR and comms experts, our panel, for being back again in the 5th year together. We so appreciate you for being here. And thanks for being here for our daily debrief to address some of these questions. Rob, Alexia, Mark, you guys are great. We appreciate you.
Thank you guys so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good luck with the rest of the event.
Yep.
Thank you.
I so appreciate that panel every year. They are so committed and so excited about the topic, and the passion just shines through. So
Yeah.
with that,
And
folks,
the simple strategies and the simplicity of how they explain it, I just think it's so helpful.
absolutely. Folks, if you have any questions you want for us to answer tonight about today's sessions, this week's sessions, or challenges that you're facing, please just drop a comment. We'd love to see folks dropping comments here. And yep, we've got Duncan in the audience there on YouTube. Shout out to him, and talking about Australia and having a career-based ladder options, because they have 8 different services in the entire country, which, we have such a fragmented system here in our country. But yes, it's pretty wild. 8 services in the entire country. But other countries are doing this as well. UK has a similar career ladder and a career-based structure. So I think, Lisa, if we bring in our virtual exhibit hall and just show people again that may be watching some of the booths and what they can look forward to. I'd like to highlight AIM, the AIM systems and software. They not only have EPCR and dispatch software, they have billing software. If you are interested in bringing your billing claims process in-house, their system and their AIM intelligence system is actually an opportunity to reduce claims denials. And they are really some of the go-to experts when it comes to billing processes. And they have an entire support team, whether it's if you need help outsourcing your billing or you need help evaluating other software solutions to enhance your billing. They've got some great case studies of a rather large ambulance service that brought that in-house and how they decreased their denial rate. So just head on over. If you want a free billing assessment, they're also offering that in the AIM booth. Our two lunch and learns this week, Dr. Clayton Kazan, the medical director for the LA County Fire Department, a medical director for over 10 years, talking about the changes to the DEA regulations around controlled substances. So if you have questions about that and how confident you are or are not in your compliance with these new rules and regulations, feel free to join us live. You can register for tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. And then on Friday, we have the VR Patients team that is doing a demo on AI-based simulation and running simulations with their software platform. So we want to thank our sponsors, BD, which is Pyxis MedBank, and the folks over at VR Patients.
I just want to say, if you have any interest, for sure go to the Lunch and Learn, but check out the video in their booth. I have watched that several times. It's short, but it is so cool to see how the images are realistic. And I don't know, it just, whatever I thought it was going to be, it's so much better than that. So I definitely recommend both of those. Sound incredibly interesting. But
Yeah.
I think, and we talked about how Nadine Levick, our annual safety
Keynoter.
and innovative expert who does a keynote live for us every year, she talked about VR Patients years ago, and here they are, like just leading the way. So highly recommend people check out that booth. There's great information in there as well. And if you can, go to the Lunch and Learn on Friday.
Absolutely. Our friends over at Ninth Brain, check out their booth if you're ever looking to evaluate the systems. We're talking a lot about systems in this year's summit, systems that produce results, and they've got a system of systems if you want to address quality improvement, scheduling, you want to look at a new learning management system and platform, and especially if you're doing any type of CAS or CAMS accreditation, they have accreditation processes where you can create a system that's going to support you in exporting those reports and justifications. So feel free to reach out to the folks over at Ninth Brain. They have an exciting announcement coming up that we can't talk about yet, but you will see that if you're signed up on our list. Really exciting announcement that should be out in the next month. But the folks over there, they're always supportive of the EMS Leadership Summit, and we appreciate that.
Yes, they have been a sponsor for a number of years, and they just have a terrific array of things to help make leaders' jobs easier. And for me, it's, just a no-brainer, no pun intended, but, to go just have a conversation with them, sign up for a consultation and just learn about it. You'll be really surprised at how much they can help streamline so many things.
Well, Lisa, we have another one of our speakers in the green room that we're excited to have back. He has been with us for the last 7 years, every year, talking about his expertise in not only physical safety, but the often area that's missed, the psychological safety and the psychosocial hazard. So with that, I'd like to bring in Dr. David Daniels. David, welcome back to the EMS Leadership Summit. Thanks for being here.
Yay.
Hey, David. I always like to mention that you also have the distinction of being one of the few people who's not only been here for all 7 of our regular summits, but the one safety summit we did in 2020, you were here for that too. So I don't think there's anyone else that can compete with that. So thank you for always being a great partner of ours and for offering such impactful information in every one of your presentations over the years.
I'm just lucky, lucky to stumble across other people who are have the courage to do stuff that other people haven't done. Because that's really how this thing came about. I continue to share that story with folks about It's this cast of characters who said, "Hey, we're going to do this virtual conference." I thought it was a cool idea. I did. I had never done one before, but it sounded like fun. And that was, 7 years ago. And now there's 20,000 plus people who've had the opportunity to get information that they would not have had the opportunity to get otherwise. Because these folks weren't, they wouldn't, period. There are people who have learned things through this summit that they would not have the opportunity to get otherwise, because their organization is struggling to keep ambulances on the street. Yeah. To retain people. So, they say they're training, they're doing just enough to stay qualified because they don't have the resources to do elsewise. And, these are the kinds of opportunities that they have that, so kudos to both of you for, and for sticking it out and let's try this and see how it works. And I think it's working fine. So glad to be here.
Especially that first year, a lot of people are like, I don't know about that virtual thing. We really like to meet people in person. And then the next year, we all know what happens.
Exactly.
Shut down. And everybody was like, hey, how'd you do that virtual thing? But to your point, our goal was to try to democratize this type of information, to make it available to the corners of not only this country, but the world that can't afford to go to a national conference. We certainly encourage you to make the case, go to those in-person conferences if you can, and invest in yourself. But if you financially can't and physically can't, at least this is an opportunity to hear from some great minds and to share ideas and to get a little bit of inspiration. I think a lot of inspiration, but a little bit of inspiration to keep you going and fill your own cup. So you can help, we get people that are really committed to their organizations. And that's what I love, that we've had over 20,000 people from 44 different countries believe in this idea and tune in. So we appreciate that.
Yeah. It's, yep. But always happy to show up.
So we're talking today. We've talked tonight about this idea of trust and building trust internally in an organization. I think our comms panel talked a lot about how do you build that external trust and transparency with the community. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether it's strategies or it's areas that you think people and leaders could lean into more of how do you build trust. I think our providers, we give them so much autonomy and we have so much belief in their abilities and we give them so much trust. But when you ask them, what do you want more of in an organization? It's so funny to hear the answers come back as intangible. We want trust. And I was like, okay, well, I thought we were giving that, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that, whether it's psychological safety and building more of that, building more trust amongst people.
Well, trust with the public, in my view, is third order trust. Because there's a second and a first order that people don't sometimes spend enough time on. And a lot of it's because of how we train people. We've, brought these folks into the helping community, and it's all about helping other people. And they're suckers to do it. I was, and I'll do it. I just want to. But the challenge is we don't, I think, spend enough time focusing on where trust starts. And it starts, first of all, with me. I've got to trust myself enough to know that I can do this, that I've got the skills necessary. That's whether I'm a practitioner on the street as an EMT or paramedic or whatever, or as a leader. And I think often what is lacking is people some of them really know. I know I'm not as good at this leading thing as I was at the paramedic thing. I know it because it's harder. It's got more intricacy than, some of the, delivering of medicine is a lot more objective than trying to be a leader of people. So people know that I probably shouldn't have taken that promotion. I really don't like that type of thing is going on inside me, and it comes across. So then I don't trust my folks either. I might trust their skills. I probably have to because we all came up through the same system. But then I don't give them the autonomy to make the other kinds of decisions that they really should be making. And it started with me. I'm worried about not how they're going to look. I'm worried about how I'm going to look. Mm-hmm. And I write the policy manual gets bigger and thicker, and we have more restrictions on people because it's not because of them. It's because of me. And then we skip over those two things and we try to convince the public how much we, how much trust we have in them. Trust is about two things: competence and character.
Mm.
And if I'm lacking one of them, there's not going to be a lot of trust, period. And generally the character of the people, we have all kinds of systems to, check their backgrounds and all this stuff. We can pick up on the character flaws pretty early, some of the major ones. Some of the minor ones may take a little bit of time, but a lot of that competence piece, people don't get it. They don't get it. They get more, starting more lines and backboarding people and all the technical stuff. We can do that, but it's like I said, all three orders of trust. Trust me, trust the people around me, interns of the organization, and then we can just reflect that to the public. It's not as hard. But a lot of the challenges these organizations are having with the public is because they don't even like each other. They're riding around in ambulances all day, not speaking to each other, and the boss is cranky, and it's it's kind of and that's what we talked about in the presentation. That's not leadership. The most important thing that a leader should be doing is creating this environment where people feel safe to do the thing that they were brought here to do. They feel it. I mean, and there's, I don't know if we talked about it or not, there was these, all these conversations about like engagement and all that type of, we can get people engaged so they can go out. Engagement is three-tiered. It is physical engagement, my body showed up. Cognitive engagement, my body showed up and I know why I'm here. And then there's that emotional engagement that's really hard to get because there's other stuff going on in my life, and so when we talk about trust in general, it is not as easy as or as simple as we make it, but it starts in here. It doesn't start out there.
Yeah. And you point to, I think, another important factor of it's that relationship of a supervisor to the frontline employee. We've talked a lot about people's willingness to look forward to coming into work is often influenced by that direct relationship. And
Totally.
In the EMS 1, What Paramedics Want survey, the fact that 34%, the bottom two sections there, when I approach my supervisor with a problem, I trust they will listen. Well, when more than a third of your organization doesn't trust that you're even going to listen, a lot of them are probably just going to give up and say, what's the point?
Yes. Yes. And again, when the next, I think Mark said on the earlier, panel that, we do all the surveys and all that stuff. We do a survey every year, but you never implement any of it. And there's always some excuse why. And often the excuse is why we're paying homage to people who don't work here anymore. People, somebody decided something 20 years ago because something happened. And we're still doing it. Why? Well, because that's the way we do it. And it really limits people's ability to be, you hired or brought these folks into this organization because they had something to offer. Let them offer it. Let them be, the people that when they were on the interview panel, you said they were a great candidate. 6 months down the road, there's something wrong with them. No, got to look at the system. It's not them. Mm-hmm. It's the environment you've put them in that now is stifling them and holding them down and, and so worried about, a bunch of things that aren't really important.
Yeah. And for me, I mean, the thing that we're hoping for this conference, again, in addition to the What Paramedics Want survey and people understanding, this idea of burnout and now number one on the list, right? Now the top concern. But the other piece was the power of leadership to build a sustainable future, right? So often it can look like, and there are problems at the industry level. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be Pollyanna or any of that.
Right.
But what are the steps we can take every day? What are the interactions we can have now, right? Not 6 months from now, not when all the stars aligned, but that chart that Robbie just put up, can I commit to putting stuff aside when someone comes to me and just listening to them, that one thing.
Yes.
And the commitment to doing it. Are you going to be 100% perfect? No. But if you see that, I'm guilty of that, I unintentionally have, made people feel like I wasn't listening and I wasn't, so how do I, what's a practice I can take on? What's a new system that I can put in place? So, I think a lot of what you talk about is in your article that you wrote for us, thank you, and also in the presentation is around the things that people mistake for leadership and how that actually perpetuates all the problems that we see.
Yeah. I refuse to believe that EMS or really any public service is full of a bunch of bad people. I don't buy it. I don't. It's hard to buy. I just don't buy it. I believe that these are good people with good intentions with really poor tools because they've been handed the same tool from 3 generations. We just pass it along. Let's do the same thing we did 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And again, it was fit for purpose then. It just isn't fit for purpose now. And psychosocial safety is about an environment that I perceive and experience as safe to me, not that is safe to everybody else and I'm left out, or that's used to be safe, 10 years ago, but it isn't now. And some of this is just our failure to just evolve, and change is okay. I mean, it is okay. And the other point is not to talk so much about the problem, but this is a really, really hazardous environment that people are operating in. It's not just a physically hazardous, it's an emotionally really hazardous place. Mm-hmm. And the leader, the more effective ones, people have to know if I'm going to go out and face this thing, then when I get back here, this is going to be a place of, of protection and you got my back and that type of, because I'll go out and break through walls for you if I know you got my back.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go out there and do that. I mean, really, and I've shared this before. I was never physically injured. I was in the fire rescue service for 32 years and did all of it, hazmat stuff and the tech rescue stuff and all that stuff, and never got physically injured once. I got psychologically injured a lot, to the extent that sometimes people just know that's just the way it is. You're going to feel that way all the time. And, my fellow Gen Zers, I was born 37 years early, but I'm with them. They're not having it. They're not willing to put themselves in that kind of emotional state. So they'll go do something else. There's a question about, recruitment and retention. People are smart enough now. They have enough information available to them now. They're not going to come to your organization if they know it's going to be dangerous for them. Why would I do that? Why would I do that? And they're not going to stay if what you advertise and what you said you aren't really that. Mm-hmm. They will stay. And sometimes, even if it's not perfect, you told me when I started it was going to be like this and we're in it together. They'll stay for that because that feels like commitment. That feels like we're in it together. But you told me it was going to be this thing, and it's never been that thing. It's never really, when something happens and, the entire organization turns on me and, I'm all of a sudden a bad person. I just didn't know that. And, you see what I mean? These are really fundamental people-related things that leaders sometimes just don't get. And again, it's happening to them. Mm-hmm. The politics are changing, and they said, hey, we want to do something with the organization. We're going to give you the funding and all this type of stuff, and then you don't. It's like, right. Well, hold up. Why don't we just be honest with people, even with our communities, about what we can provide and what we can? People aren't stupid. They really aren't. And they'll probably still vote for you if you just were honest and let people decide the level of service that they want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and David, you point to what is pointed out in this survey as well is that inadequate staffing, I mean, that's a resource issue, is related to 25% of a paramedic's stress on the job. Imagine if we could eliminate 25% of their stress. One of our speakers today, Amara Gilchrist, she talks about the fact that they eliminated mandatory overtime as a problem in their organization, and suddenly they have a line of people around the door, and she doesn't know what to do with all these applicants. 2.5 years from listening to her people, doing exit interviews, not to spoil the whole interview, but I mean, we should all be on a soapbox of like, this organization figured it out. Right. They resolved that issue for their organization. And a lot of this comes down to under-resourced or an organization that's still built in the same structures that it was designed 30 years ago to handle three
That's right.
times the call volume
That's
with the
right.
same amount of people, and people are scratching their head as far as like, why are people so stressed out?
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing, sorry, David, one thing I will say, I was privileged to interview Chief Gilchrist last year and this year. And the thing, that you said, David, early on about you've been lucky to be around people who are innovators and who are willing to try stuff. And that describes her to a T. I mean, she was just, wasn't having it. Like she did not take, this is not the way we do things. She was just like, well, okay, but this is how we're doing it now.
Right.
And
Right.
she was just her commitment, and she's someone who started as an EMT, as a single mom,
Mhm.
many years ago, and she just was committed to taking away the barriers that people face. Anyway, it was a tremendous opportunity to hear what's possible when you aren't mired in this is the way we've always done it.
Everything was impossible until somebody did it.
Mhm.
Everything, it's impossible. Somebody did. And if the North Star is always, is this good for me? I mean, is this going to work for me? Is this something so I'm not going to morally injure myself and other people? Is this the right thing? If I believe this is the right thing, is this the right thing for us? If it is, let's try it. It may not turn out the way we expected it, but our intent is to create an environment where we are in this thing together. And then that then extends out to the community. A lot of the lack of relationship with the community is that some people don't even like them. They don't like the communities they work in. They don't. They don't. I got to be honest, they don't. There's all kinds of reasons for that. And some of it is I'm working so hard, I can't be compassionate to this next person because they called me on a mandatory overtime. There's all this stuff going on. It's all connected. And you can't skip over those pieces and wonder why the public is feeling it too. So being kind to each other and being kind to me, giving myself a break, taking off when I need to take off. And I get there's a staffing challenge, but for me to be at my best, I can't be here all the time. I got to take a vacation every now and then. And then, try and encourage other people to be as fresh as we can and as much as possible. Again, it is a hard job. I get it. But we told you that when you signed up. We were clear when you signed up about what this really was, which is why we gave you PPE and why we gave you all this other stuff. But we also gave you these support systems that say, if you're struggling, here's somebody that we'll have you call. We'll send the resources to support you. See what I mean? I think if we did more of that, we literally would have less of the problems. And again, it's not always about the money. It isn't. It is not about the money. I think there was some research done, 4 or 5 years ago that suggests that it is the culture of the organization. The culture of the organization is 10.4 times more likely to drive you away than in compensation.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen that study. Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
And yet people still say it's the money. Anytime we post anything on
the
Facebook,
money's a proxy. Money's a proxy because if you pay me enough, I'll put up with more. Yeah. We've all got a number we'll tolerate, but what about if we didn't have to tolerate so much? If it was, I don't right now. I'm fortunate to be at a place and stage in my life. All of the stuff I do, virtually all of it, is stuff I want to do. I don't have to. I don't have to take orders from anybody, other than my wife gives me some directive every now and then. But but for the most part, I do what I want to do when I want to do it. And but this didn't have to take this long in my life had I known some things that I know now. So I try to help people. Don't put yourself in a situation where it's just going to be horrible for the money. It's not really worth it. Mm-hmm. It's not.
Well, one of the things I like to say, I know we're almost out of time, but one of the things I like to say when I'm working with leaders is, this is hard, and how are we making it harder than it needs to be, right? Like that's the thing that we often don't know we're doing that. And I like how you said it, like first with me, how am I making this harder on me than it needs to be? And then on others, how am I making it harder on them than it needs to be? Like, how do we get past that? And there's so many ways to do that. But you first have to recognize that the way it is isn't the way it has to be.
That's the way it has to be. Be better. Be better.
David, I have to ask. I see the book sitting on your shelf over your shoulder. I'd love for you to grab that off the shelf if you can and give people just a quick.
He has one on his desk.
Oh, you've got one on your desk. Talking about psychosocial hazards are real. You've done so many episodes of the Psych Health and Safety podcast. You've recently published a book. You've completed a PhD. Just share with us a little about your new book and what you're excited about in this.
Well, what excites me about the book is it answered a question that I had.
Yeah.
My question was, we've got all these standards out there. Let's talk about, psychosocial risk, but psychosocial risk doesn't come from nowhere. It doesn't. And I think we've put appropriate effort into figuring out risky situations, but we don't chase it upstream to find out where it came from, because that's harder. And the definition that's in the book and in my research is, it comes from the fact that the international standard ISO 45003, and it's a great standard, it is. A couple of people who helped write it, but it doesn't define what a psychosocial hazard is. It just doesn't. And so I thought that was a worthy endeavor, and was able to discover that psychosocial hazards are in the mind of the beholder. It's my perception and experience of something that is so uncomfortable to me that I act different because of it. And that's what's going on in a lot of these organizations. And I'm not running around the world or around the country or whatever trying to, convince people who don't care about other human beings. That's not what this book's for. If you're just into making money and don't care about people, don't read it. Probably won't help you anyway. But for those who have recognized that, look, something's not right. We've tried all the other stuff. Maybe there's something in the environment itself that we haven't paid attention to. That's what this is about. And this is not a blame. It's not saying the organization's bad, that people are. It's not that. This is just because you had a fire at your house doesn't mean you're an arsonist. Just because you had a cardiac event doesn't mean you're, overweight. I mean, there are all kinds of things that contributed to what happened, but we have to pay attention to the hazards that we're being exposed to and we're exposing other people to, because the earlier we can address them, the earlier we can kind of minimize, some of the issues that might come from that exposure.
And David, you've mentioned before that other countries have seen this as a much bigger priority, a mandate.
Yes.
Canada, I feel like Australia, possibly the UK, are identifying
Yes.
the psychosocial hazard as much as the US has identified the physical safety hazard.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Australia is the leader, that by far, followed closely by Canada and the UK in that order, honestly, because Australia is just, they passed a law when people didn't even know what they were talking about, but they passed it anyway. And, the workers' comp claims in many places in Australia are up, 300 or 400%. But they said that was necessary to get people to focus. If it doesn't cost people anything, they're not going to do anything about it. But if we were to do the same, if we did the same thing here in the U.S., some businesses would go out of business because they treat people so badly. And if they haven't had a physical injury in forever, haven't had a recordable in 10 years, but their turnover rate is 45, 50%. And it amazes me that you got shareholders that are out that have normalized that stuff. That's the thing. I mean, state and local government, if you're concerned about your taxes being high, look at turnover.
Yeah.
That's where it's going to turnover. You hire this paramedic, they treat them like trash and run them off. They sue and win, of course. And you got to pay for it. It would have been much better for everyone to treat that person with the dignity and respect that they deserve, and to create an environment that was as free as possible of the hazard. And if there's a hazard there, you give them a way to deal with it. I get it. I understand. But that's really what the conversation is, just to convince people it's a thing. What you do about it is up to you. But it is a thing. It's not just suck it up. It's a thing.
You point to the turnover rates, and according to the American Ambulance Association, the Newton 360 survey in our industry, Scott Moore talks about this. I mean, organizations up to 38% turnover, and the quantified amount for direct employee turnover per person lost last year was rated at $55,000. When they did this 4 years ago, I think it was as little as $9,000, and they continue to quantify and recognize the cost for direct turnover, not to mention the indirect cost of hiring and training these people. So time 100 person, 1,000 person organization, when you're losing 25 to 38% of your organization at $55,000 a person, I mean, organizations are hemorrhaging money, but they're not paying attention to the cost.
Well, and as much as we're having conversations across the safety industry about serious injuries and fatalities and all that type of thing, the number one reason that people are dying on the job these days is suicide.
Yeah.
Paramedics, firefighters, police officers, suicide. That's what, and there's a direct correlate. And I find it so interesting for people to talk about, oh yeah, there's stuff going on at home. Not that much, because they're not at home that much anyway. How could it possibly be all about home when they're spending most of their awake time, most of their life is at work? Work has to be at least a part of it. It has to be a part of it. So but again, I'm encouraged by the conversations that are being had, that folks are, this kind of conversation in an EMS setting 20 years ago was no way. Yeah. We weren't having that conversation. We weren't having it. But that's at the heart of a lot of the challenges that people have. If you can address the psychosocial hazards and risks, the physical stuff becomes a lot easier.
Yeah. And there has been a culture shift over the years, and it's great to see states start to recognize this and step in with funding for frontline organizations to say, hey, mental health is a concern, and the post-traumatic stress injuries that people are facing with that later on lead to disorders, and the cumulative stress, the moral injury in organizations, and to see the bolstering of systems to give people more resilience. But there's only so much resilience you can really build somebody up to. There has to be a systems approach to how do we prevent some of this from happening in the first place.
Yes. Yeah. And it starts with leadership. It does. Me leading myself and the people around me, and then the organization decided this is what we didn't become what we are right now. We don't have the systems that we have in place right now without leadership from people. We need different leadership now to lead us to something that is more caring about people. Again, Lord love the folks who want to go out and take care of the community, take care of yourself, and take care of the people around you. The better job you're at that, the better job you'll be able to take care of the community.
Yeah, that's great advice. I love that.
Well said.
All right, we are just over the top of the hour here. David, always enjoy these conversations. Thank you for your commitment, your passion to this topic, and to keep beating that drum for our industry and for other industries. We appreciate your insights.
Yeah, thanks. And again, congratulations on number 7. Number 8's right around the corner. Get ready.
I already got a time slot for you, David.
Yeah, right on. But thanks.
Such a pleasure to see you. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you so much.
Such a pleasure. Take care.
It's always great to be in this conversation with other like-minded folks that are just so innovative, like David is. So, folks, we are at the end of our daily debrief number 2. We, there's several sessions that are available until 8 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. So we've talked about the interview with Dr. David Daniels. We've mentioned Chief America Gilchrist's interview and how she has resolved and transformed their staffing in their organization in less than 2.5 years. Really exciting. We've got Chris Cebollero recording about his new book and strategies for leadership, and bringing his years and years of studying this to our sessions. You heard from the PR panel at the beginning. All 3 of them are just experts that could stand alone in their own presentations, and they are state national experts they're advocates for their organizations, and together they're just a powerhouse of generosity in the world of communications and PR. So much to learn from that panel. Audrey Halpern bringing as a new speaker, talking about building a bench of leaders and more capacity for leaders in your organization. Audrey talking about soft skills and leadership, and what we like to say is essential skills that we can invest into our people in order to build that bench of people in a management and a supervisory and a leadership role. So tomorrow's lineup of speakers, really excited to hear from Tracy Loskar, from going from a really busy urban system in New Jersey to some of the most rural areas in the Matsu borough of Alaska, talking about using scarcity as a strategy. And she is not kidding. When you have a road that gives way and you have one road in and out, all of a sudden that 30-minute transport turned into a 4-hour drive in the other direction. I mean, it's just, she brings such a great presentation and perspective. Rob Cook.
I'm sorry. I just love how she talks about just the title being, that it doesn't have to be a barrier, right? Scarcity doesn't have to be a barrier. It's actually a strategy. And I really recommend people, whether you're rural or urban or what anything in between, that you take time to see her presentation, because it's phenomenal.
Lisa, I think most of the themes, half of the themes, and it was ranked probably 7 in the number of questions that we got, were around rural services. So a great resource for any service that's working in the rural limited resource, which is frankly almost every organization when you talk about scarcity and limited resources. Yeah.
And then Rob Cook is joining us again this year. He is talking about mission-driven leadership for high-pressure environments. He has background in the military, doing special forces for many years. He teaches leaders all around the world, really, exactly what David was talking about starting with yourself and how to sort of get beyond the thinking that you bring. It's a wonderful interview with him. Not just because I did it, but it was really enlightening to listen to him and the work he's doing.
Yeah. And then we had David Dashinger, retired lieutenant, who is the host of the Responder Resilience podcast, and him, along with Bonnie Rumley, an EMT and licensed social worker, as well as their co-author, have put together a book, Helping the Helpers. And that session, they gave me 10 pages of resources, and we hit every one of those resources. So they have packed that session with strategies from a personal resilience and a perspective, and what we can do as leaders to help others. So really great session there. Dr. Megan McElhern from the Wayfound organization up in Canada. It's amazing what she's doing with frontline crews, embedding psychologists into those organizations to help.
At the fire camps. I interviewed her. They're bringing mental health practitioners to the fire camps, embedding them to work with the wildfire fighters, and it's extraordinary. And they're doing it again this year. And she makes the parallels of how this could be done anywhere, and it's really incredible what they're up to. And I was like, "You slept in a fire camp?" And she's like, "Yeah." It's oof.
You're so passionate about research and helping first responders and their entire organization. So it's really great to watch the research that comes out of that organization.
For sure.
Shout out to Wilton, Maine. So Dr. Carol Cunningham, what a powerhouse of a speaker, a physician, EMS physician leader. She is the medical director for the state of Ohio division of EMS. And boy, she is passionate in this presentation, talking about the mask of stoicism and how that's just killing people in organizations. And she has seen a lot over the years, from in-hospital to pre-hospital. And it was great to feature that interview.
Yeah, she was terrific.
We
And
mentioned
then lunch and learn.
lunch and learn. There's live lunch and learn tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. So tune in for that. It's a separate registration. So head on over to the virtual exhibit hall booth with Dr. Clayton Kazan, medical director for the LA County Fire Department, talking about changes to DEA regulations. And really, on a pre-call, we chatted about, like, he really wants to make sure that providers are feeling confident. He said the DEA doesn't want to restrict or limit pre-hospital. They want to enable pre-hospital access to controlled substances, and talking about bringing pharmacists in to help with medication management, because that's their expertise. We're just trying to do the best we can with the resources we can. And he brought pharmacy techs and pharmacists in, and they really began to transform across their entire system. I mean, LA County, massive pre-hospital system. But that session was brought to you by Pyxis MedBank by BD. And Dr. Kazan is going to talk about how they also leverage some ADCs, automatic dispensing cabinets. And BD really wanted to have him present about this topic that's on the minds of so many people.
Yeah, we're really bi-coastal when you think about it. We had Commissioner FDNY, and we have the LA County Fire Chief. I mean, pretty cool.
Medical director. Yep, LA County Fire Department medical director. Yep.
Yeah, pretty cool. Anyway.
All right. Thanks again to our sponsors. Again, emsleadershipsummit.com/exhibit. If you want to view the free sessions, you just hover over booth number 1 and access those free sessions. Sessions are available for 24 hours each day. If you want to upgrade for an all access pass, you can do so for a very small amount of money. And if you want NEMSMA approved continuing credits, you can get those, as well as lifetime access to this entire day of speakers here on day number 2. So just over 12 hours to watch all of these great sessions that we've just talked about. And then tomorrow at 8 o'clock, there will be more sessions premiering.
Yes, we will. If you have a free pass, actually, everyone who's registered gets a email first thing at 8 a.m. It's not first thing. It's 8 a.m. Eastern. An email will come out and tell you everything is live, and you can click on that, or you can just go right to the exhibit hall, emsleadershipsummit.com/exhibit. Go to booth number 1, as Robbie showed us, and you will see them all become available at 8 a.m. Eastern. Wow, this went by fast, as always. I love when we get the chance to speak to our presenters. They're so committed, so willing, and so generous to give us their time, not only for the presentations, but then to show up here. I'm just in awe of who we get to be with in these sessions.
Absolutely. Lisa, thanks again for being with me here tonight. And thank you to all of our panelists and all of our speakers. Thanks for joining in and watching. Folks, if you have questions, please reach out. You can get your free pass at emsleadershipsummit.com, and you can email us at support@emsleadershipacademy.com for questions.
Yeah. All right. So until tomorrow, everybody, we'll see you at 6 p.m. Eastern for the Day 3 Daily Debrief, and we'll have a whole new set of speakers.
All right. Have a good evening, everyone.
Bye.